My name is Giulio Prisco, and I would like to welcome you to the video proceedings India Awakens conference that will be online after today, February 12. Initially, we wanted to have a live conference and bring all speakers to Kolkata, India. That was not possible, unfortunately, for many reasons, including the lack of funds to bring all speakers to India. So we settled for an online conference with video talks that have been either recorded in real time or contributed by the speakers. Here I want to introduce you to the main themes that will be discussed and give some short indications of the content of each talk. But first, I want to mention that this conference is dedicated to the memory of Ronjum Monshi Pundit. I hope I pronounced her name well. Ronjum is not with us anymore, very sadly. And the question that we ask ourselves is where is Ronjum? That's a question that everyone asks, because we all have lost some people we loved. Where are they? This is the fundamental question. This is most fundamental question which philosophy, science, and religion must be able to provide at least tentative answers. Perhaps the question is not very well formed, doesn't capture the essence of what we want to know. I'm not sure that the answer is something that we can call there. I'm not sure that the answer is a is. So we can formulate the fundamental question in a more comprehensive way. Introducing other words, all these words start with W. Where, when, who, what, why is Ronjum? Let's start exploring all these different aspects. Back to where. Where is Ronjum? The answer that many traditional religions, especially Western religions, give that Ronjum is with God, which is a good answer and a perfectly satisfying one for billions of people on the planet. At the same time, we in the early 21st century are very much used to science, and science has shown us that it's possible to understand the world, to improve the world. For people like us with a scientific background, it is important to formulate at least some answers, limited answers, not complete answers, that are inspired by and compatible with modern science. going back to the question, a possibility is that Rum Jum is somewhere in the block universe, which is the totality of space and time, which, according to many scientists, exists as a single thing. Of course, this is a trivial answer because Rum Jum is evidently in the past. An interesting question would be whether we could somehow visit her in the past, or perhaps copy her from the past and put her back here in the world. Another possibility is that Rum Jum is somewhere in the multiverse, which is a set of an infinite number of parallel universes that exist together. The multiverse hypothesis, also known as many worlds interpretation of quantum physics, is dear to one of our speakers, Professor Frank Tipler. And you will hear a lot about the multiverse in his talk. Another possibility that consciousness is really one. My consciousness, your consciousness, all consciousness is one. And consciousness of Rum Jum is somewhere existing within this unitive consciousness that is described and elaborated upon in the talk of Dr. Amit Goswami. Let's go to when. When is Rum Jum? A possibility is that Rum Jum will be reincarnated, will exist again as another person. This possibility is kind of in the air in all the talks. Perhaps you could look at the talks of Ben Goertzel and Mike Latorre for some especially interesting considerations about reincarnation. Now, reincarnation does not mean exactly the same thing as resurrection. Reincarnation means that you come back to the world as someone else. Resurrection means that you come back to the world as yourself, with all your memories, your thoughts, your feelings, as an identical version of you who comes back in the world at some time in the future. Now that could happen, of course, by will of God. We think that God is a loving God who will want to resurrect us. But another possibility, which perhaps could be seen as a different way of saying the same thing, is that we, Rum Jum and everyone else, will be resurrected by some kind of super science in the future. Here is something that Lincoln touches upon in his talk, and so do I. Not in my formal talk, not that much, but since I have been in all the other talks I have introduced these speculations many times in these video proceedings with very interesting answers from the others. I don't usually propose a specific mechanism for technological resurrection. Why? Because I don't think we know enough sense for that. How to resurrect the dead is a very difficult question for future scientists to answer, and the answer could take a very long time, could take thousands of years, take perhaps hundreds of thousands of years. But perhaps we could have good answers sooner than that in novel The Light of Other Days by Arthur C. Clarke and Stephen Baxter. Scientists find ways to resurrect the dead only in a couple of centuries from now. Perhaps we won't have to wait that long. According to Frank Tipler, who is probably best known proponent of the idea of technological resurrection, we will have to wait very long indeed. We will have to wait at the end of time that Frank calls the omega point. Frank thinks that intelligent life at the end of the universe will acquire godlike powers and be able to resurrect all the dead from the past. Even more than that, Frank thinks that we will be able to resurrect the dead from the past in all the parallel universes that form the multiverse. And these are really fascinating speculations. Another way to ask the question is who? Who is Rumjung? Or who will be Rumjung? We have mentioned reincarnation and resurrection already, and the fact that we hope Rumjung will be either reincarnated or resurrected, or perhaps both, sometime in the future, either by natural processes that happen in the universe or by interventions of some agency that could be future intelligent life. It could be our own descendants in the future who would choose to take upon themselves what Russian cosmist Nikolai Fyodorov called the common task of mankind to resurrect the dead from the past. There are so many other ways to answer the question who. One way is to think that Ranjum is God, or at least she is a little aspect of God. The God that has been called Brahman, a Logos, or one of many other names. Another possibility that I very often consider is that I am Rumjung. You are Rumjung, in the sense that everyone is really one. And here we go back to the idea of unitive consciousness discussed by Dr. Goswami, and a fascinating philosophy known as open individualism, promoted by philosopher Daniel Kolak in his book titled I Am You. Very interesting book. Let's move to other aspects of the question. What is Rum Jum? At this moment, even if the concept of moment doesn't necessarily map very well onto these speculations, Rum Jum could be a memory stored in the Akashic field. Akashic field is a cosmic field that contains a record of everything that ever happened in the universe. And we have talked a lot of the Akashic field with professors Ralph Abraham and Cecil Roy. To make things even more complex, Rum Jum could be a pattern in the Eurocosm. And I hope I can skip the explanation of what is the Eurocosm, because it's a complex and sophisticated explanation, which I can only direct you to the talk and papers of Ben Goertzel, who explains these fascinated speculations very well. And eventually we come to an old idea that was related, among others, by Bishop George Berkeley centuries ago, that Rum Jum, like everyone else, is a thought in the mind of God. This is not a new idea, but it is an idea that even special interest, special importance, I think, by some of the recent findings in science and their translation into theology. I discussed a bit about that in my talk. The last question is why. I should have said how, perhaps, but it was nice to have only questions starting with the letter W, and perhaps why and how are different ways of asking the same thing. So I will keep why and how as very closely related questions here that must have very closely related answers as well. We have discussed Akashic physics of Akashic records, the physics that could permit understanding better and better how the memory of the past is stored in the fabric of space-time and perhaps retrievable from the fabric of space-time. Look at the interesting discussion with professors Ralph Abraham and Cecil Roy and myself. Others, such as Professor Frank Tipler, Lincoln, Cannon, and myself, have speculated about the possibility that resurrection and or reincarnation could be achieved by some god-like engineering will be developed in the future. Perhaps, as Frank Tipler thinks, in the very far future. Again, perhaps we won't have to wait that long. And of course, by wondering why and how, we cannot avoid mentioning divine action, the not yet understood ways in which God, whatever we want to call a God, can intervene in the universe. And speaking about powers that we ourselves would develop the far future, and speaking about divinity, we have to speak about love, the very old idea that a God is love. I think God, which is a difficult concept described in many different ways by different religions, but all having in common some fundamental agreement on the ideas. A God he or she promotes love and compassion, status of fundamental physical laws embedded in the very fabric of space-time. I think the final answer, the best we can do at this moment, is that Rumjum, all our loved ones exist, will exist again. How? Somewhere and someone. Because God is love, and we will become love. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds in circle flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. This is a poem by Mary Elizabeth Fry, and the poem expresses the concept that all is one. The sunlight, the rain, birds, the stars. All is one, and in some fundamental sense, we are all a part of the same reality. This poem was written by a Western writer, but we can see that the sensibility it expresses begins to look very much like Eastern philosophy and Eastern mysticism. Let's talk about India. In fact, the title of this conference is India Awakens. And some very interesting considerations about the role of India in the development of the future that I'm hinting at have been made by some of our speakers. For example, Professor Robert Jurasi thinks that Indian futurists tend to embrace the tradition, appropriating science and technology in their affirmation of the past more than their Western counterparts. while Ralph Abraham and Sisir Roy are persuaded that India, which is becoming a hotbed of futuristic science and technology, would provide a more open and culturally supportive environment than the conservative United States and Europe for the development of the new science. I'm very much persuaded of that, and that India is really the place to be when it comes to the intersection of futuristic science and futuristic philosophy and theology. There are many excellent books by Indian writers, mystics, scientists, philosophers that I could recommend. I don't have the time to recommend them all now. I would like to recommend one, which is a book called Codename God by Manny Bonick. I hope I pronounced the name of Manny Bonick well, and I don't think I would be able to pronounce the title of the Bengali translation of his book that you can see on the right. I cannot even read it, but I'm assuming that it is something like that. The book is the spiritual odyssey of a man of science. In fact, I don't want to give spoilers here, but I do recommend very much reading the book. First, it's a biography of someone who had an extremely interesting life. And the second, because he formulates ideas about the intersection of science and spirituality that are very close to the theme that we have chosen for this conference. We don't have a talk from Dr. Bonick, but I do hope very much that he will come to a live physical India Awakens conference next year. In fact, I forgot mentioning that at the beginning. I had to settle for publishing only the conference video proceedings now, because we are not able to bring speakers to India, but we have not given up, and we are still planning to have a real conference with the same speakers and many others next year on February 11, 2018 in Kolkata. I very much hope to see you all there. And if you want to come, don't forget to contribute to the fundraisers that have been announced to cover the cost of the conference. Going back to Dr. Bonick's ideas. I'll just read some words from his book. Throughout the universe is an abstract intelligence. The primary field, having spawned the universe, is now present at the very fabric of space throughout the universe. Would this field therefore be orchestrating the very foundational aspects of at least everything physical? I cannot read all the book, but what Bonick is saying is that there is intelligence in space-time. This intelligence is everywhere, and this intelligence, God, directs the unfolding of physical events, is perhaps responsible for what happens in reality. We know that if we go back to the physics of before Albert Einstein, to Newtonian physics, the universe was a very simple place because everything was determined from the very beginning. That was a deterministic universe. Things are more complex in today's science. The universe cannot be described as deterministic anymore. Something happens for no precise reason. It seems that in quantum physics things happen because they want to happen, and we can interpret Bohmic's words here by thinking that the intelligence woven through the fabric of the universe directs the physical universe in its unfolding. I have to mention that Dr. Bohmic stays with a very abstract conception of a God. It's not a personal God like the God of Christianity, but based on Bohmic's ideas. In my talk, I give some speculation about the possibility that a mind could exist in the quantum vacuum, and that mind would be a numen God in the cosmic plenum. In fact, vacuum should really be called the plenum because a lot of things happen in the vacuum. And in my book, I try to build a bridge between abstract, a God woven throughout the universe, and the personal God of Christianity, and show how these two different aspects of God be conceived as one and the same. In closing, I want to mention my two favorite quotes ever. First, William Shakespeare: "There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, dreamt of in your philosophy." Second, from Sir Arthur C. Clarke: "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." Putting all these words together, we can think that there are a lot, but really a lot, of wonderful things happening in the universe that today's science doesn't understand yet. But on the other hand, science will understand more and more of the magic things that happen in the universe, and sometime they be able to develop magic technologies like those that our descendants in the far future will use to resurrect dead from the past. Rom Jum, ourselves, you, I, and all the people we love. Now back to the way I have formulated the questions: where, what, and why. I would like to leave you with the thought that reality is more complex than words. Let's imagine asking the question, is this thing a rectangle or is this thing a circle? The thing is that both answers are correct, because this thing is a rectangle and this thing is a circle. But both questions are wrong, because they assume that the answer must necessarily fit in the logic and the picture of a two-dimensional world, while reality is more complex than two dimensions. The same three-dimensional object can cast a rectangular shadow or a circular shadow. Similarly, the way we have asked the question can only capture some aspects of the answer. And perhaps there is no exhaustive, unique, and complete answer that can be formulated in our language at this moment. That's why I think that the only way we can ask the question, we can answer the question, where is Runjun, and when, who, and why, is simply saying Runjun is. And I hope to meet Runjun someday, even if the sentence I just said must only be extremely precise and insufficient. Runjun is. So I'd like to say goodbye and recommend that you watch all the talks in the video proceedings of India Awakens Conference 2017, and invite you to come physically to Kolkata for the main India Awakens Conference on February 11, 2018. Thank you very much for listening, and enjoy the talks.